Courtney's death can't be in vain. I've said it from the get-go.
Yep.
Things need to change so other families don't have to live this nightmare that we will live the rest of our lives.
Yeah. The ones that closed-minded, that everything's black and white, she's got a knife, they're dickheads.
That's right.
She was never a statistic. She's our daughter. She's our beautiful daughter that died unnecessarily and senselessly. So we are doing this in her honour and her memory because she deserves nothing less.
Welcome back to part 2 of my chat with Leesa and Ron Topic, whose daughter Courtney was shot and killed by police in a set of tragic circumstances 8 years ago. The really sad part about this story is that it's something that perhaps could have been avoided. In part 2, we're going to talk about the aftermath of the killing of Courtney and what lessons have been learnt, and also discuss the recommendations from the coroner. So, Leesa and Ron, welcome back.
Thank you.
Again, I'm sure people that listen to part 1 are just, probably thinking, how would anyone cope with this? And I said it at the start of part 1, and you guys amaze me how you've dealt with this and just pushed through it and paying a tribute to Courtney, not forgetting Courtney, and trying to make a difference and trying to make some good come from a tragedy.
Look, like I said, we're a family of 6 with 1 missing.
Yeah.
If I made a phone call right here and now and told my boys that they need to be here and support us as a family unit, they would be here.
Yeah.
To this day, this is 8 years later, and we're still as strong as that.
Family is everything.
Yeah.
I remember you guys at the inquest, how tight you were at the inquest.
And nothing's changed. We're blessed to have a strong, connection with family, grandparents, cousins. So we're very blessed. Just wish, you know what I wish. Courtney was here. Yeah.
I know what you wish. The inquest, again, this is something that you're not accustomed to.
No.
I know there was a long build up to it. It was years after, and you had meetings not just with police, but with the council assisting and going through the processes and explaining to you what the processes would be at the inquest. But nothing can prepare you for it, can it?
Oh, it's daunting. No. It's daunting if you weren't going in there to hear about the death of your child. It's daunting on so many levels. I think the last time I went on a court, it was for my license earlier, but at school excursion. So that's how bizarre it all was. So we were grateful that we were taken through the courts, and things were explained to us. We had a wonderful counsellor with us, and she made the world of difference too.
And there's so much going on. You've got the media attention, and then a court that's going to determine how and why your daughter was killed.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's bizarre. It's really surreal. It's not our life, but sadly it is. Yeah,
the stakes are very high. So the focus of the inquest, and I've gone from the findings that the coroner handed down, but the focus of the inquest, just to cover what the focus was before we start talking about the inquest. What was Courtney's mental state on the 10th of February 2015? What did police do in response to the situation? Did police act in accordance with New South Wales Police Force policies and procedures? Was the police response appropriate? So these are all the questions. They're 4 questions, but that pretty well encapsulates it, doesn't it?
Yes.
The response, the actions, and what state of mind was Courtney in on the day.
Like the Deputy State Coroner said, we know how she died. Yeah. That part we don't have to look at. We know how she died.
Yeah, so that's
a gunshot wound to the chest, and that's it. We know that. So all the rest is what we don't know.
So this is what we're trying to explore, and it was 9 days. We said
it was
9 days hearing. In regards to Courtney's mental state, I pulled this from the findings. What could explain the confounding fact that Courtney, a gentle-natured young woman who had never displayed aggressive or antisocial behaviour, had left her home that morning holding a large knife? And why hadn't she put it down when police armed with weapons demanded her to? At the inquest, the court heard evidence that on the day of her death, Courtney probably had untreated schizophrenia and was likely suffering a severe episode of psychosis.
Yeah.
That was the first we'd heard of it. Courtney had always suffered with mental illness. You know, we'd seen psychologists and so forth over the years. Courtney was, but that wasn't sort of unusual. It was just part of who Courtney was. It wasn't even managed with medication.
You're talking ADHD and autism and
and just got on with life. So there wasn't anything particular. In the September before Courtney died, so September 2014, she came to us, Ron and I. Again, we were all sitting at the table at dinner, and then she said to her brothers, "Will you just get lost?" And so we knew she wanted to talk about something.
You've said that to Ron before.
Yes. And she said, "Oh, Mum and Dad, look, I think I need help. I feel like I'm struggling again." Okay. And, you know, we've got to it. And the mental health, that's another whole issue, but trying to get mental health and access to psychologists, psychiatrists is tricky.
Yeah.
So we got hold of somebody through recommendations, but we couldn't see that particular person until December. Ron said to her, "Courtney, is that okay?" And her response was, "Well, I've been living with it for this long. What's the difference? I'll be fine." And thought, all right, okay. And so just, again, on with daily life and so forth. We both went with her to her appointment to this new psychiatrist. We went in and spoke, and then, obviously Courtney went in and had her session. This is all, in a few months leading up to Courtney's death. And the initial medication that she was prescribed from this psychiatrist was for ADHD, just seeing if it could settle her thoughts down and so forth. Did that for probably about 4 weeks, 5 weeks, maybe even 6 weeks, and she felt that it wasn't making any difference to what was going on. We, at this point, still didn't actually know what was going on, as in we found out through the inquest that she'd been hearing voices. We had no idea, absolutely no idea. Courtney hid her mental health very, very well, and we later to find out after the briefings and everything into her death that she'd written down that she didn't want to scare or hurt her family. And that's the kind of person she was. Yeah. Hence, we get to the point with this psychiatrist. So after 6 weeks, he's decided, obviously between them together, they've decided that we'll try Lovan, which is an antidepressant. And Courtney was on that, taking that the day she died, and had been for probably 4 weeks or 6 weeks or something. Prescribed dose as expected through the pathology after she died. There was only the prescribed dose in her bloodstream and so forth. So, and then to hear in the inquest and through forensic psychiatrists and that at the inquest that she was probably having a schizophrenic episode of psychosis that day. I mean, it's so random.
It's nothing that you saw.
Nothing.
That led up to this that you could anticipate?
No, the night before we'd had a school meeting for our youngest son at the time. He was in year 11, and we'd gone to that and come home and had our dinner, chicken carbonara. I can still remember it now. That was one of Courtney's favourites. I don't know why I cooked it that night. And, we had dinner, and then Courtney went up to do her usual routine, which was go and have a shower and that. And Ron and the boys and I was thrilled watching Top Gear.
Good on you, Ron.
Anyway, and she came down later and, she did what she did. She was pacing and made a comment here and there about it and so forth. It was a normal dinner, normal evening, nothing out of the ordinary, and then same thing. Next morning, get up. I go my way, Ron goes his. We go for what we need to do. Courtney doesn't work on a Tuesday, so normally she would just stay at home and do different things around the house and so forth, in a room and whatever.
And there was
by that afternoon,
nothing you saw.
Absolutely not. If there was, I remember as I walked down the stairs, ready to go to work that day, and I turned back and I heard the main bathroom door open, and I looked, and it was Courtney going in there, and I said, "Bye, Courtney," and she just gave me a look that I took as though she was more asleep than awake.
Yeah,
and shut the door, and off I went. If I knew if there was any inkling that there was anything out of the ordinary, none of it. We wouldn't have left her side.
Yeah,
there was nothing to indicate that that was the worst day of our life was ahead of us.
About to come. That's abundantly clear that you guys were a family doing anything for Courtney that you could, help in any way and support her in any way. That's I think it adds to the sadness of the whole situation.
We tried, and then just in 41 seconds, it was all just it was taken away. She was taken away from us.
We're going to talk more. Well, we talked about the incident and the way that you described it, and your frustrations at how quickly it escalated and why did it escalate to that. I think in fairness, we're talking, I pulled out extracts from the findings. In fairness, I'll put this on record that on the issue of what was the police response appropriate, I accept these submissions. So this is after all the submissions that have gone in. This is the coroner in the coroner's words. The evidence supports a finding that when the 3 officers discharged or attempted to discharge their weapons, they had subjectively reasonable grounds to do so. Their actions did not breach New South Wales police policy and procedures. Now, that's we've talked about that, and that's I think we need to. When I say acknowledge, it's not saying it's the right thing, but that's what the coroner found, that they hadn't breached anything.
That's and we respect that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But
we're not here. We want training, police training.
Unfortunately, police when they put their uniform on, then they take their appointments.
Yes.
Their appointments is the taser, the gun, and so on, and that. Once they put their uniform on and take their appointments, they become part of New South Wales Police.
Yep.
That's who they work for, and that's the job they're doing. So it takes away that personal accountability and responsibility for that person. Yeah. If you're a security guard and you go out in your car or whatever, you're entitled to have your Glock with you. Yeah. And take it around with you the whole time, from home, back to home or whatever, right? Where New South Wales Police, the uniform is the implements. Yeah. The implements is a uniform.
That gives you the authority.
That's right. So, that's where that comes into play.
And and this is where it's difficult when you're talking the death of your child in those circumstances. That a clinical assessment from the coroner is that, okay, policies and procedures were found. The beauty of what you guys have achieved, and when I say achieved, by being there, supporting Courtney, making sure Courtney's story gets across, is that those policies and procedures have been looked to be revamped and part of the recommendations.
And that's important.
And learnt from that.
Courtney's death can't be in vain. I've said it from the get-go. Yeah. Things need to change so other families don't have to live this nightmare that we will live for the rest of our lives. Yeah. And Courtney's life, is gone.
And the counsel assisting the coroner, which is in preparing all the brief for the coroner, made a comment about it in his submissions. Errors were made by those in the New South Wales Police Force who are responsible for tasking officers to respond to mental health-related incidents. Errors were also made by the responding police in their approach to Courtney. Specifically, they failed to factor in the strong indications of her mental disturbance. This is asserted caused to adopt an approach to disarming her, which was entirely inappropriate and had the most tragic consequences. So, that sort of encapsulates what you guys are saying. Yeah, how it responded, and it just escalated.
De-escalate. Awareness.
You've got a probationary constable who was out from Goulburn for 4 months. Yeah. That's it, 4 months. Yeah. She's mature. She's our age. She's had a change of career. Yep. Gone into the police force late. Took a oath to serve and protect, and that. Yeah. And all she was doing was screaming out, "Drop the knife! Drop the knife! Drop the knife!" When she went to discharge her taser failed in her hand. Yeah. If a taser worked, if it was operational,
a completely different story.
It could have been. Because of that fact, they binned all the tasers after Courtney's incident, and they went to brand new tasers with brand new batteries.
I remember that because we had to get experts on it when we identified that, and we raised it before it even went to the inquest that the maintenance wasn't being
hadn't been checked in years. That
properly
particular
on tasers. So across the state, to ensure that this didn't happen again, an email was sent out advising everyone to make sure the maintenance of tasers, because it could have drastic effects.
That's right.
Cost lives.
Yeah. So, and that's that type of thing that you need to make sure lessons are learnt.
Absolutely.
From that, and the consequences of a taser. Tasers should only be drawn in really difficult situations and used, and if they don't fail, it can tend to escalate.
That's where it fell down. Partly if that had worked again, we probably, hopefully, would not have been here.
Yeah, and it certainly comes out from the comments from the counsel assisting about treating people with potentially mental health issues differently as well.
There's not a one size fits all. I mean, I don't sit here and profess to know what the police go through on each day in terms of their role and everything. But a big part of their workload currently, and it's growing, is mental health and dealing with mental health people. Yeah. People with mental health, with mental illness. If they're just going to have a get rid of the knife, get rid of the knife, get rid of the knife, there's so many people that are going to be killed that probably shouldn't have been because of the wrong approach.
Yeah.
It's like anything. You need the right approach to the right problem. This is the wrong approach to a problem that should have been dealt with in a different way.
Yeah. And on that, I'll talk from a police point of view. They're difficult situations. Yep. And I think you guys are reasonable enough to know that no one's a winner in situations like this, like the police involved and all that. And I've been involved in reviewing a lot of police shooting incidents, obviously my role as an inspector at the homicide. Also been in the operations where, leading operations where someone's been shot and killed. And I know the impact that it has on the police involved. But we should learn from everything. And any time someone dies, it's not the result that we wanted. So if lessons can be learned, and I can say this in the ones that I oversaw, I haven't seen so many recommendations flow on from an incident. So that's pretty telling.
And well, that's a positive, isn't it? There's not really much you can say that's positive for us personally about Courtney's death. But if there's change, a positive change that helps save lives,
has to be a good thing.
Then that's a good thing, absolutely.
Like you said, nobody wins. The senior officer who had mental health accreditation, who's running across the road, never worked again.
I wasn't aware of that.
Never worked again. Yeah. So by the time I went to court, 3 years later, and he was in court and he gave evidence. He wasn't working a day since that incident, and that was 3 years later. Yeah, and that's the end of his career.
Yeah,
right? And
it impacts far and wide. It's a ripple effect. Obviously, we feel it most. It's our child, and our other children and grandparents and so forth. But community, we're just normal, hardworking people trying to do the right thing, give a good life to our children, and here we are in an extraordinary situation that we don't want to be a part of, that we don't want Courtney to be a part of, but we are. Yeah, all we can do is go forward in a positive way that will change things for others.
Been thrust into it. I'll read out some more from the coroner's findings because it all is very telling, and then I want to talk about what the comments were. Having reviewed the evidence in this inquest, I've concluded that the responding police took an approach to disarming Courtney which was not appropriate. The presence of mental disturbance as a special circumstances ought to have caused the officers to give thought to the communication skills that might be needed to disarm her. The critical question that is posed by counsel assisting in his submission, how best to persuade a person in mental health crisis to give up the weapon, necessitates enabling police to understand the employee communication skills best suited to securing compliance by persons in mental health crisis. So it all comes down to how we communicate.
That's right.
And so let's hypothetically say, instead of drop the knife, are you okay? Are you okay? That's right. Can we help you?
As a human being, treat them as a human being.
You can see the coroner there is referring to radio operator saying, is her well-being, her
welfare.
Yeah, her welfare. Right. It's they were worried about her self-harming.
Yes.
Right. And her welfare. So when the car hit the curb, the gun shouldn't have even been drawn. The taser shouldn't have even been drawn.
The call related to concern for her welfare, concern for welfare, rather than there's someone with a knife that's threatening people.
And they're saying senior officer.
And you would understand a different response.
And they're saying the senior officer drew his weapon, exited the vehicle, drew his weapon before his foot went on the curb, and then had it in the ready position, had that firearm in the ready position.
Yeah.
Now, what's that?
I'll argue or give a counter view that could be said that police have got to go in prepared and prepared for anything. If you draw your firearm, but you've got it secreted or whatever, you're ready to use it if necessary. But I understand what you're saying. But
you need to assess a situation first.
Yeah, I think what cried out to me, and I'm loath to sort of attack people in operational situations. I've been in them. I know you're making split-second decisions. But that escalated very quickly to my way of thinking. And I think it was, where was it? Another comment, and this is from Dr. Eagle, who's a forensic psychologist who reviewed the evidence and interviewed Courtney's family. In her evidence to the inquest, Dr. Eagle confirmed that a calmer, slower approach would have been more likely to secure Courtney's compliance. So that's a psychiatrist looking at the situation instead of bang, confrontation, de-escalation and communication.
De-escalate. It's that one word, de-escalate. See, I can't get past the fact that, like I said to you before, 7 seconds after she was sprayed with capsicum spray, the shot was fired. I can't get past the fact that even the state coroner stated it on record that the highway patrol officer looked at spraying Courtney with capsicum spray to de-escalate the situation. Instead, he escalated the situation, which led to Courtney's shooting. Right? Now, surely coming from the offside of the situation, with Courtney engaged with two officers in front, right, and the other officers getting out of their vehicles on the onside of the situation, right, to run across the road to intervene, surely the highway patrol would have seen those officers coming to engage with the situation. So you're talking about 3 involved officers with another 4, another 2 cars just turning up, 2 per car. There's another 4 officers, right? Surely, he could have made better choices.
Yeah. Communication. Obviously, it's a very critical situation, and as you say, the senses are heightened and everything, but it comes back to the police training. If there's a set way to do this, there could have been a different outcome.
Yeah, I suppose when you say critical situation, I'm just thinking, I live in the city. You walk around the city. I go for a walk early in the morning or a run or something, and I see so many things that clearly someone's suffering mental health issues that might have a stick in their hand or, talking to a telegraph pole, all that sort of stuff. If you confront that person with weapons drawn,
how many people are going to die?
Yeah.
You've got to be more mindful, and pun intended, mindful of people with mental health.
Yeah. And that certainly came across in the recommendations. So the recommendations from the coroner, there was 10 recommendations. And recommendation 1, consideration to be given to mental health training, establishing and documenting a joint review of training packages for defensive tactics, training where mental health is likely to be a relevant factor. So that has to be good.
Yeah, absolutely. If definitely.
Implemented.
And they brought in a mental health training team.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a team that was formulating and giving police specific mental health tactical training.
So explain what you know about it, Ron, and and Leesa, and I'll add to what I know about the mental health training.
So we've been involved, and it's been sadly it's been interrupted over a couple of years with COVID.
Yeah.
But they were schooling 30 officers a month. Those officers will be on a 2-day course. We'd go in and talk about our situation.
We'd tell Courtney's story.
Yeah. And the training situation was based on, I suppose, interacting with a mental health situation.
So give him practical,
yes.
practical
role playing.
Role playing, yeah. And the role playing was based on Courtney's critical incident.
Yeah.
Right. And what they were doing, they're hearing the background, and then they were given instruction, and then at the end of it, they were carrying out the role play. So that was 2 days on trying to sort of get into your aptitude. Yep. When you put on that uniform and strap your implements and go to work, that you need to address the situation that you're entering every single time.
Yeah.
Not everybody's known to police. Not everyone's a criminal. Not everyone,
Yeah, I can understand. It's almost that siege mentality if you're in the police. So all the bad guys were out there protecting the streets, but then the mental health people fall in between the gaps, don't they?
They do.
The police commissioner at the time, Mick Fuller, put an article in the Daily Telegraph on how much workload is put on New South Wales Police because of lack of mental health support in New South Wales.
Well, there's been a lot of, this is going back decades, but integrating people with mental health issues into the community. And
That's right.
That type of thing. I know from policing, I saw the difference. So with the mental health training, my understanding is that every officer, and this is going back the 3 or so years when I was in the police, that every officer had a day's training on mental health training, which is, it's... You get a little bit from it, but it's almost like a tick and flick type situation.
Exactly.
Tick a box.
Yeah.
And then the more intense is the type that you were talking of with role playing and where people like yourselves come along and lecture to the police or tell the story. And I think part of what the coroner and what came out of the inquest, we need more of these police available to not only ready to respond to those, but also the communication section also be aware of people with potential mental health issues. So if someone's walking around with a knife, whoever takes that first report has enough knowledge to think, okay, is the person threatening someone or is the person just walking around with a knife? It might be a mental health issue. And there was reports that she was walking along with the knife down by her side and hitting herself on the head.
That's right.
So, it's not like... There's a concern there, obviously, and it warrants, I think you'd be the first to say it warrants a police response.
For sure.
But having those people trained up with mental health training that can identify that and look at options and weighing to communicate with someone like Courtney in that situation rather than just taking the approach of got to get the knife from her.
Mm.
That's exactly right. Yeah. It's a personalised approach for that particular situation. Now, when I say personalised, it's not a one-on-one for every situation, but there's a lot of people out there suffering with mental illness.
Yeah.
And if the appropriate training is given, then the officers will have the skills to be able to know which way to respond to a particular situation. And that's from the get-go we've said, training.
Sorry.
Yeah, so there was a lady in the car park with a child in the car who's seen Courtney standing there out front of Hungry Jack's with the knife, right, and called to police, and her concerned about Courtney self-harming, said that she was pointing the knife at herself and that sort of thing, and she was concerned. Right. And then also there was a guy, a tradie in the ute doing paperwork and that, who didn't report to police but said he gave a statement in court saying that he noticed her and he was sort of looking at her sort of,
aware
of where she was and what she was doing, but he was continuing to do his paperwork.
Yeah.
Now, she actually left the front of Hungry Jack's and walked across the car park onto the grass in front of the other side of the car park, which was separated by a hedge. She's walking down the grass there, which was sort of closer to the tradie in his ute, and he just kept watching her and kept doing his paperwork and just kept watching her walk to away to the corner with that more grassy verge area, more room, more area, or whatever. He said, and the lady said, who reported to police with child in car. When the police turned up and the car hit the curb and they got out with taser drawn and gun drawn, the guy in the ute ducked.
Right.
He ducked in his ute. The girl in the car started the car and drove it away because her kid's in the car.
So they were seeing more threat than the
police. So the minute the gun was drawn and he's running he's exiting his car, heading towards a grass verge, right, with the car park in the background, they're gone.
Yeah.
They see a guy drawing a gun and they're out of there.
Courtney wasn't the threat, it appears to be from their perspective.
That's what they were saying.
You know?
How did you feel the coronial process? Did you feel like it was fair and transparent, the thing that you were looking for the whole time?
Yes.
Look, we had police had 6 legal representation. We had 3. The Deputy State Coroner also had her counsel assisting. They had 3 as well.
Yep.
So they doubled up, you know. They had 3 years to prepare. And look, it's 100% my opinion. I've got no proof, nothing.
Ron, honestly, like it's not.
It looked like it was rehearsed and choreographed.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
It looked like it was rehearsed and choreographed. There was a lot of brass there. Every day there was a new suit, new in-dress uniform, you know, with a lot of bling sort of hanging off and everything like that.
It felt like intimidation.
Yeah, every officer that was in there was in full police uniform and that. Leesa went off a nut the first day we walked in.
You asked me to see if I could get people not to wear their uniform. Wasn't that a request?
Did. Was that when they first day? The officers that were there all had their appointments on them and walked into the inquest, the court with them on. Freaked me out completely. The Glebe Coroner's Court, which is no longer in use, but it wasn't very big. The involved officers were sitting right beside us virtually.
Yeah, I know.
It was so intimidating, so confronting. And I still, at that time, didn't feel that they even had any concept of what they'd done or whether they even cared what they'd done. Yeah. I don't know whether they do now. I've no idea. I've never heard from those involved officers. We did get an apology from Mick Fuller, the police commissioner, further down the track. But even, you know, during evidence, one of the officers, the officer that fired the bullet, you know, stood up there in front of, and, you know, I'm sure it was police protocol and so forth, and said, I'd do it all again, exactly the same. And, you know, like, really? You know, cut you to the core. Like,
okay.
You know, and that was like when you walk into the coroner's court or whatever, there's a big sign saying, please hand in your firearms and that before entering the courtroom. Well, they didn't, did they? You know, no. And they were outnumbering us 2-1, you know, sort of thing. So there was that presence of, you know, they're here to do a job and they're here to do it well. Even in the court,
I see,
you know?
And what I'm hearing from you here is that it's almost like you're up against the power of the state.
Absolutely, absolutely. We were nobody.
No,
and
absolutely.
We'd felt that virtually from the get-go, back to when I said, you know, before we even spoke to you 5 months down the track, that we didn't know if we were criminals, bad people. We didn't, you know, that's how we were. That's how it was inferred and that's, you know, we inferred to feel like that we're, you know, we're the bad guys.
I think it's good that you're saying what you're saying because maybe it's something that can be changed or, identified. And, when you break it down to me, and I've been in so many of those situations, and I think how confronting it would be. And, thank goodness the Glebe Coroner's Court's gone because it was just so small. And, you'd have people who's just families fighting and sitting beside each other because there's just no room. And you've got the police that were involved in the death of your daughter sitting beside you because there's nowhere else to go.
And then some of them would walk in front of us, even though there was a door on their side, would walk in front of us, across us and our side, to go out our door. Really?
Yeah.
Talk about disrespectful. Look, I don't know if it was intentional, whether it was oblivious. I don't know.
I would like to think it's not intentional.
Yeah.
I'd really like to think, and maybe we're all blasé because it's a court situation. They're familiar with it. If I saw anyone giving you, any intimidation or whatever, if I was there or when I was there, if I saw it, I'd be stepping in.
We were just in a very vulnerable situation that was so foreign to us, and. You know, it was trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma, if you like.
Yeah. Yeah, and nothing could really prepare you for it.
No, you just. It's not the being there. You be there, you go there, and we were going there for Courtney to hear about we were never not going to go. Courtney deserved us being there, and we will always, and going forward, we'll still be there for Courtney.
Look, I always got the feeling that we were lucky enough to have representation that was open-minded and transparent. We had you that gave us your word that you would be open-minded and transparent, and we had a deputy state coroner who was open-minded and transparent.
Yeah,
and I think that sort of, just filtered through all the theatricals of the situation.
Yeah, I'd like to, from a personal point of view, I'd like to think that you felt that way. At least there was nothing covered up; everything was laid out, and that's all I could promise to you. And
you did, and you absolutely delivered.
Yeah, well, a team effort too with it. There was a lot of people that worked on it, but it's important. You need answers. How did it come about? You were lecturing to the mental health training. How did that offer present itself?
We had wanted to early on in the piece, sort of make contact, and it was advised don't do that, so forth. So obviously, there's a lot of things going on. Just let it slide. Further down the track, when we had a civil claim against the New South Wales Police, there was a representative from the police there, and he was part of the mental health team in terms of New South Wales Police. And he approached us later, not then and there, like not until everything was settled and whatever, down the track, and said, look, I do mental health training for current serving officers.
That was Matt.
Yeah, Matt Hanlon, beautiful guy. And he got us to speak to serving officers. Fortunately, they weren't in uniform, so that made it easier for me, to tell our story from a consumer's perspective, not from a police perspective, so that officers could be aware that, yes, there is the police perspective, but there's another perspective, and there's a human being who's lost a life here. So just putting it out there. And look, we would go in once a month and speak to the different officers each time, and we had a lot of good positive feedback from officers afterwards. Would come up to us and say different, in doing this, something that they hadn't considered, making them more aware. So we're very grateful for Matt for giving us that opportunity. I full credit to him. That's a tremendous initiative getting you guys in there, because it's the police we'll switch off if it's training day and it's sort of, okay, it's box ticked. You people walk in and tell your story, and everyone's going to be listening to every word you say. So it's great that you're making a difference.
See, he modelled his training off Courtney's incident.
Yeah.
So he modelled off a real life incident.
Yeah.
Off a critical incident.
Yeah.
Right. And everything that he related to was real.
Yeah,
it's something that happened.
And then the people, the students or the police who we were speaking to, they got to meet the family, that family.
And the things that he was trying to implement is that, if you do things differently, and if you take this training seriously, right, and take the skills out into the field, right, then situations will change.
Make a difference.
It will benefit them as much as it will other people.
And that's what we got. We got individuals. Look, some people sort of look at us as if to say, look, she had a knife, right? Other people look at us if to say, oh my God, how did it go so wrong? We can't let it go so wrong.
And the ones that closed-minded, that everything's black and white, she's got a knife, they're dickheads.
That's right.
And that won't make me popular saying it, but if you're looking at it that way, that's the wrong way to look at it. It's, open your mind up to potentially how can we avoid this? No one wants to see it.
It could be their child. It could be their relative. It could be their niece or nephew. It could be a sibling. It could be anybody. We're just anybody.
Leesa, that's a good point to make, because we're all potentially vulnerable if it goes wrong. And I'd like to think, and I know 99.9% of the police don't want to see anything like this happen.
No. And we'd agree. Like, look.
And So if there's some improvements that can be adjusted, not just, and we're talking the organisation, it's not just the individual's organisation, better training, better understanding.
But that's where we've come from. It's not with us. It's it's not the individuals. They're part of an organisation, and that's where it needs to go back to.
That's a good way to look at it.
I've got a lot of friends that are police officers, so it's not like we're here to, be against the police or anything. That's not that at all. It's about change that will benefit them as much as it will benefit families like ours that perhaps get caught up in a situation that they should not have.
Yeah, no, I understand where you're coming from. And guys, you demonstrated it with me when I got into trouble with the police, of all things. But the texts and messages I got from you guys and the support when I was going through my own court matter, and it was humbling in that I think what you guys have gone through, what I was going through, pales into insignificance. But you really supported me, and I appreciate that.
We do support you, and we appreciate you.
Honest, mate, Look, I don't know if you look. What was his name? Kradich, who was
one of the legal
counsel assisting. He was in charge of counsel assisting for the deputy state coroner.
Yeah.
When we had a meeting with him first time, when he introduced himself to us and said, "This is me. This is what I do. I'll be sort of looking into any inquiries that the deputy state coroner has regarding the investigation before we get to court date." And he says, "Who's your investigating officer?" I said, "Oh, Gary Jubilin." And he said, "Oh, Gary." He said, "Oh, he's one of the good ones."
Oh, well, that's nice to hear.
Yeah. That's it.
Thanks,
and that's what he said.
Thanks for passing.
And that's what we believe. You are. You're absolutely. Right. We wouldn't be here today if we didn't have faith and trust in you.
That's
and
right.
You returned that to us in spades in a transparent and honest and decent investigation.
Yeah. Well, don't keep talking. I'm going to have to grab that tissue box. You met the commissioner, Mr. Fuller. How did that come about? And
we wanted to meet him from day one.
Yeah,
when I seen that stupid Keystone Cops footage, right, of that comical situation,
how it escalated,
right. I turned around, I said, "Listen, we need to talk to the police."
Yeah.
They said, if they want to do it behind closed doors, let's do it behind closed doors, but we need to talk to the police because this is bullshit.
Yeah.
That's bullshit. And of course, oh, no, legal this and legal that and, all this and they've got theirs and you've got yours and, there's the line there and you're not allowed to cross the line and that. So all we did was follow their process, follow their procedure.
Went through legal. Did it the right way.
And then at the end of it, when the deputy state coroner said, is there anything else that the family would like to say? We said, yes, we'd like to meet with the police commissioner.
Good call.
That's it.
And to his credit, he did eventually meet with us after proceedings were all finished and everything. We met him in Sydney, in the city, and we got an apology, which we are grateful for and accept. I mean, it doesn't bring Courtney back, but it acknowledges that Courtney did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
And to put it bluntly, that day, shit happened.
Yeah.
And we were grateful for that acknowledgement from him.
Well, full credit to him, and it doesn't hurt to apologise to or say sorry.
Yeah.
No, we were grateful for that.
He knew we're not police bashers.
Yeah,
we're not sort of baying for blood, or we're not. All we wanted to do.
I think, and that's why I've said, the way that you guys have handled this is so inspirational. In that, I haven't seen bitterness or nastiness or spitefulness come out. Yes, you've been angry. Yes, you've been emotional, but you're always balanced in your approach. Maybe that's why you're clean skins. Maybe.
Lucky us, eh?
It's been a tough journey for you, hasn't it?
It is. And the thing is, it doesn't end. Yeah. It's ongoing. This is the rest of our lives. Everything we do is without our daughter. She's in everything we say and do whenever we go out. I mean, my boys reckon the house is a shrine to her and they get the shits with me all the time.
We've got a photo of Courtney.
Yeah. I wanted to put a thing on the back of the car, a little thing, remember, and they all jumped on me and wouldn't let me, so they're a bit mean sometimes.
Well, so she went and got a tattoo instead.
I did get a tattoo. I didn't show you my tattoo.
Oh, wow. That does. Look, I'm looking at the photo. That's a very good tattoo.
That's right. I was very happy with it.
I said, don't put that on our car. Put it on yourself.
Very nice.
First tattoo at 56. So
there you go.
Who knows?
Have you been able to reach out to people that have experienced similar things to you?
We have, and we've had people contact us privately on Messenger and that sort of thing, that have had interactions with the police that are, less than ideal when they've been suffering mental health and so forth.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mention names or anything, but they have said to us, thank you for doing what you're doing, because it needs to change, and we don't want to be the next statistic like Courtney. And I say to them, Courtney's not a statistic, and that's why we're doing this.
Yeah.
She was never a statistic. She's our daughter. She's our beautiful daughter that died unnecessarily and senselessly. So we're doing this in her honour and her memory because she deserves nothing less.
Well, you're carrying a powerful legacy there.
We can there's people out there that are going through exactly what we're going through today.
Well,
right, but there's a legal system that won't let us engage with them, right, on the off chance, that we might say the wrong thing.
Ron, do you remember, and I wasn't sure if I'm breaching protocol or whatever, but there was another critical incident I did that the son, and I won't name names, but someone that you'd be familiar with had a bit of a profile, and I was going to put you in touch with that. And to me, I think that's a humane way of dealing with dealing with situations.
You don't feel so alone. You feel like
let other people that have walked in your footsteps.
Absolutely.
That family had broken up.
Yeah.
Because of that incident.
Yeah.
That family had broken up.
And
now people are living with other people and everything, and there's a sort of a bit of a to and fro happening and that sort of thing. And all I did was make contact, touch base, and say, look, if you need, I'm here. Right, mobile phones on 24/7. Yeah, right, don't hesitate. But that was breaking that family nucleus up.
That's why credit to you guys. It's made you stronger and tighter.
Oh, we're not perfect.
Oh, duh.
He's really annoying most of the time. But anyway, no, look, family. What to go back to, family.
The very special day, and I don't think there was a dry eye there when the memorial. Talk us through that, how that came about and what happened there.
It was something that we wanted to acknowledge Courtney and remember Courtney. And we had a lot of people say to us prior, when it happened, my boss at the time and another staff member had gone and put a cross where Courtney died. It's still there. We go down there and put flowers and so forth. 8 years on, it's a little bit the worse for wear these days, but that's okay. It's still there. And we wanted something a bit more permanent, I guess, and a public acknowledgement of Courtney and what she'd been through, and acknowledging, in as little words, positive change, I guess. So we liaised with local council, and as it turned out, the people that we got the chair from, they had relatives that go to the school that I worked at. It's just everybody knows somebody, and I guess we're in a big community where we are. So it soon got out, and look, council were wonderful, Liverpool Council, the chair people, they were great.
But our local member,
Paul Lynch, he was amazing.
To get all those things happening and get that park bench set up as a memorial for
Paul
where the
Lynch
incident
took it to State Parliament as well.
Yeah.
So
how's this? This is a critical incident where a family and police, right, 2-year investigation, 12 months of court, 9 days sorting it out in court, saying that police were sort of doing their job, but shit happened, right, and they could have been doing it differently and saved a life, but unfortunately a life was lost.
Yeah.
And how many years later? Four?
That was about 2 years ago.
2 years ago,
I think.
So that's 6 years later, we have local government, local police, and
yourself,
the family,
ex-police,
ex-police,
and the
you brought a lot of people together that day. I hadn't spoken to any police for a long time.
And the chief investigating officer, and the chief training officer from New South Wales Police, all standing around a bench dedicated to Courtney.
I remember the day, and when you guys reached out and invited me there, and it was an emotional day for everyone.
It was important for us.
It was really good seeing you guys and police standing there together, and the police were generally affected by it too. There was a lot of emotion there, and so full credit to you.
We it was something that we'd talked about over time, and it was something we we worked at. We didn't want to just put it there. You had to go through the right channels again, clean skins, I don't know, whatever, do the right thing. But anyway, we did that. And
even a clean skin can get it done.
Yeah, I know. So, look, there's the bench there, and we've got a lovely plaque, and it's got Courtney's picture on it and some words.
Yeah.
And the thinking behind it was those having a mental health issue or whatever, if they just take a moment. And from our perspective, if those officers had just taken a moment, we wouldn't have needed a bench. So if someone's in crisis, just sit, take a moment.
Take a step
and
back.
we drive past that intersection regularly. There's often people just sitting there.
That's it.
And that makes us happy.
Yeah.
If I know that sounds strange, but it reiterates to us that Courtney's death wasn't in vain.
Yeah. The recommendations, 10 of all up. Do you know how many have been implemented?
We were told,
we
were told 9 and 1 in process.
That's when we met with Mick Fuller a few years ago.
Okay.
But we didn't receive any evidence of what has and what hasn't.
Okay.
Or in whether it was in order or not, or
and whether it's still being, whether it's gone by the wayside, we don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
We would hope not. We would hope it's just been followed and there's been positive change.
Yeah. I mean, we've had through Matt Hanlon and his training a PACER program which puts registered nurses in police stations, and if there's a sign of a mental health situation, then they transit with police to the situation.
Great idea.
Yep.
And it's working. It's working.
And they had a stopper program, which items that you do when you get on in operation, and that you actually stop and assess the situation and that sort of thing. Whether these things are still going strong or have sort of weaned off a bit, it's all budgetary and it's all sort of funding.
All comes into play. But the things that you're talking about, I dare say, and this is just speculative, but I dare say the lessons that are learnt from Courtney have probably saved other people's lives.
Oh, you bet. Yeah,
I personally know somebody that, again, messaged me privately, and their adult son was in mental health crisis, and the police were called out, and this person knows Courtney's story and was a bit reluctant to call police out knowing the situation. And a mental health trained nurse came out and made all the difference.
Yeah.
That man celebrated his 30th birthday the other day.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Like the more that can be avoided, and just of recent times, and when I was speaking to you the other day, there's been
a couple of
in one week in New South Wales 2 police shootings.
Yeah. And again, I don't know the situations, and it's easy for people in the public, they see what the media portrays, but they need to be mindful that it's not always like that.
Yeah.
We waited patiently. It wasn't easy, and we're grateful for the coroner and everything, her findings and how it all came out that Courtney had done nothing wrong. But that compounded our trauma. It was a long process, but that we're grateful for, that it finally, became public.
And a long process. And I remember you guys standing and addressing the media on the steps of the court after the inquest. So confronting, isn't it, in the most personal, difficult time of your life, and you're thrust into the spotlight.
It is. And it's so far removed from who we normally are.
Just mad Parramatta supporter.
We well, I'm a mad Parramatta supporter. My husband's a mad Manly supporter. So goodness help.
I'm mad. I'm mad for being married to a Parramatta supporter.
God help us on the weekend when they play each other. So.
Oh no!
I've been doing that this week.
I've been talking about what a great relationship you've got. You're going to throw it all out the window.
We're still married after 36 years. Manly supporter. So
Okay.
Good.
See, opposites can attract.
Family.
How can we finish off the memory of Courtney? Do you guys just want to speak about what you'd like to leave as a memory of Courtney?
That Courtney was a beautiful person. She didn't deserve to die like this, and that we want to do whatever we can to go forward with the New South Wales Police, or whatever within the media, to make affect positive change, so that Courtney is always remembered for who she was and not how she died.
Yeah.
I miss her. I'd give my life now. I'd take a bullet if she could be here. And that's never going to happen. So all I can do is just keep going. We have 3 amazing sons. We need to keep going. we can sit in a corner in a fetal position, and we do that occasionally, but that's not going to help anybody. We need to keep going, and in the interim, when it's not working, eat cake. That works for me. So
find comfort where you can. Thanks, Ron.
Look, I've said from day one that I hope and pray that no other family ever goes through what we're going through. You wouldn't wish it on your worst enemy. And if I got to look in somebody's eyes and know, right, they're living what I'm living, right?
Yeah,
that'd make me very, very sad. It once is enough. All right, we've been dealt this. We're living it. We're eternally broken, but we're still getting out of bed every day. But please, I don't want this to happen to any other family ever.
Agreed.
Well, thanks, guys. You've spoken so beautifully about your daughter and what's happened there. And as I said, you're an inspiration. And thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us, Gary. You're an inspiration too.